Order rarely arrives with noise. It appears quietly, the way a room settles when movement slows and nothing needs to be adjusted anymore. In familiar spaces, this kind of order feels gentle rather than imposed. It comes from easing, from allowing small motions to soften until they naturally fit together. Nothing is commanded. Nothing is corrected. Calm organization simply emerges. At close range, this process feels easy to recognize. A breath lengthens on its own. Muscles release without instruction. Even attention, when left alone, drifts towards steadier thoughts. These are not acting of control, but moments of permission. When pressure relaxes, balance has space to appear. Order grows not from effort, but from rest. Tiny movements continue beneath this quiet. Subtle shifts brush past one another, redistributing warmth, position, and space. Each adjustment is small enough to feel insignificant, yet together they create stability. Motion does not stop here. It becomes smoother, more evenly shared, until nothing stands out as urgent. What remains is a sense of quiet continuity. There is reassurance in knowing that nothing needs to be perfect for this to happen. Order does not require attention to maintain itself. It forms whether it is noticed or not, carrying on patiently while awareness drifts elsewhere. This steadiness invites the listener to feel supported, held by processes that do not demand participation. As the mind rests within this near and familiar calm, it becomes easier to let go of effort. The sense of safety deepens, not because everything is understood, but because nothing feels rushed. Order here is soft, flexible, and forgiving. Gently, awareness begins to widen. The same easing felt close at hand is not limited to the immediate. It continues outward, shaped by interactions too quiet to see directly. With nothing pressing for attention, the mind is free to drift beyond the familiar, carried by the same unhurried balance, preparing to explore wider spaces where calm organization unfolds just as gently, without force, without design, and without hurry. This gentle beginning does not rush the night forward. It settles it. Awareness is allowed to remain close, then gradually loosen, as if floating a little farther from shore. There is no requirement to follow, only to rest. As calm organization continues quietly, the listener is invited to feel safe drifting outward, supported by the same steady easing, ready to move into broader spaces where order remains patient, quiet, and deeply reassuring. Nothing here asks for effort, explanation, or alertness, only the permission to continue resting gently through time. Repetition can be one of the quiet comforts of the world. Some movements return not because they are instructed to, but because balance naturally guides them back. Flows circle gently, easing outward, and then softly returning, completing cycles that feel less like loops and more like breathing. Nothing is pushed forward. Nothing is pulled back. The rhythm exists simply because it can. These repeating patterns rarely demand attention. They continue in the background, steady and familiar, smoothing sharp edges over time. Each return feels calm because it carries no expectation. There is no finish line, no moment of completion to reach. Stability grows from this absence of urgency, allowing motion to feel safe rather than restless. As repetition continues, it begins to feel reassuring. Even small variations are absorbed into the larger rhythm, never disrupting it. Change happens, but it happens within continuity. The flow adjusts without losing itself, teaching balance through patience rather than precision. Reliability replaces direction, and awareness can relax into trust. For the listening mind, This kind of rhythm offers relief. Thoughts do not need to move toward conclusions. They can drift, return, and drift again, held gently by familiarity. Calm deepens when nothing insists on progress. Repetition becomes a place to rest, not something to escape. Time behaves differently within these cycles. Moments blur together, losing their sharp boundaries. Instead of marking beginnings and endings, time stretches smoothly, like a surface without seams. The steady return of motion softens awareness, encouraging attention to loosen its grip. Eventually, repetition stretches so far that it nearly dissolves. The rhythm remains, but its turns become wider and slower, unfolding across spans that feel continuous rather than counted. What once felt like a pattern becomes a condition, quietly supporting everything within it. As awareness follows this gentle extension, the sense of rhythm fades into something even calmer. Repetition gives way to gradual change, so slow it feels almost still. The mind does not need to notice the shift. It can simply remain at ease, carried forward by continuity that no longer repeats quickly, preparing gently for transformations that unfold over long, unhurried time. Nothing here asks to be remembered or followed closely. The cycle holds itself together without effort, inviting rest rather than attention. With each quiet return, awareness feels less separate from the motion around it. Repetition becomes background comfort, steady and dependable, allowing the listener to drift further, supported by rhythm that neither begins nor ends. It continues softly, carrying calm forward into slower changes, where time loosens, fades, and invites sleep, without demand, effort, urgency, or change often prefers to move quietly. It does not hurry, and it does not ask to be noticed. Instead, it unfolds through countless small interactions, each one gentle enough to seem insignificant on its own. A slight adjustment here, a subtle response there, repeated patiently across long stretches of time. Nothing dramatic marks these moments. Yet together, they shape outcomes that feel stable, settled, and complete. In these slow transformations, there is no single turning point, no clear before or after. What exists is a steady accumulation where small shifts layer themselves softly, like fine grains settling into place. Each interaction leaves behind the faintest trace, not enough to stand out, but enough to contribute. Over time, these traces gather, quietly guiding systems toward balance without force or intention. This way of changing can feel deeply reassuring. It suggests that progress does not need urgency. Meaningful transformation can happen while attention drifts elsewhere, while rest deepens, while nothing seems to be happening at all. Change is not lost when it goes unnoticed. It continues gently, supported by consistency rather than effort. There is gentle wonder in realizing how patient these processes are. They do not rush toward completion. They remain open, adjusting again and again, allowing outcomes to emerge naturally. Stability forms not because something is driven into place, but because what lasts tends to fit comfortably within its surroundings. Balance becomes a quiet preference rather than an achievement. As time stretches, change begins to feel almost invisible. Moments blend together, smoothing sharp distinctions. What once might have seemed active now feels calm, as if motion itself has learned how to slow down. Transformation becomes less about movement and more about continuity, carried forward without demanding attention. For the listening mind, this invites trust. Thoughts do not need to resolve quickly. Feelings can shift at their own pace. Just as these systems evolve without haste, awareness can release the pressure to arrive anywhere. It is enough to rest alongside the process, knowing that change continues even in stillness. Gradually, the sense of time itself begins to lengthen. Short intervals give way to longer spans, where beginnings and endings lose importance. What matters is the steady becoming, unfolding patiently beneath perception. This deeper sense of time feels spacious and forgiving, offering room to let go completely. As awareness drifts into these longer layers, change becomes something to rest within rather than observe. The mind does not need to follow each step. It can float gently, supported by slow transformation that never rushes, never demands, and never interrupts calm. In this extended quiet, rest deepens naturally, carried forward by time that moves softly, patiently, and without end. Layers rarely find their place all at once. They arrive slowly, one resting upon another, guided not by force but by patience. Each layer settles gently, adjusting its weight, redistributing pressure, finding a position where it can remain without strain. Nothing locks into place. Stability forms through allowance, not resistance. Over long spans, these layers begin to support one another. What rests above is carried quietly by what lies beneath, and what lies beneath is shaped by the presence above it. Movement continues, but it is softened, spread out across depth, until no single shift feels urgent. Change still happens here, yet it happens calmly, absorbed rather than expressed. There is comfort in this kind of endurance. It does not demand stillness, only balance. Subtle motion is welcomed, allowed to pass through and dissipate. The layers respond gently, sharing influence instead of holding it tightly. Over time, edges smooth, tension fades. What remains is a sense of being held. For the listener, this layered stability can feel grounding. Thoughts can rest the same way, stacking softly without pressure to resolve. One idea supports another, and nothing needs to be cleared away. Rest does not require emptiness. It can exist alongside quiet movement, supported by depth rather than effort. Time feels different within these layers. Moments slow as they descend, stretching into long pauses between noticeable change. The deeper the layer, the less urgency it carries. This gradual slowing invites reflection, not as active thinking, but as a gentle awareness that endurance does not need attention to continue. As layers accumulate, they begin to blur together. Boundaries soften, and distinction becomes less important than continuity. What once seemed like separate parts merge into a single steady presence. Structure remains, but it feels flexible, forgiving, and calm. This quiet depth offers reassurance. Even when surface conditions shift, the layers below continue to support without interruption. Stability here is not fragile. It adapts slowly, absorbing change rather than resisting it. The sense of being carried grows stronger as awareness sinks gently downward. Eventually, attention begins to lift again, drawn outward by the spaciousness this depth creates. Having rested within structure, the mind is free to release it. Support does not disappear when focus moves away. It remains quietly in place, allowing awareness to rise into wider spaces, where form loosens, distances expand, and calm endurance continues without needing layers at all. In these widening spaces, rest feels lighter yet just as secure. There is no sense of leaving support behind, only of carrying its calm forward. Structure has done its work, and now openness takes over. Motion becomes expansive rather than contained, slow rather than held. With nothing pressing inward, awareness floats comfortably, trusting that endurance does not vanish when forms dissolve. The same quiet balance continues, simply expressed more gently, preparing the mind to settle into even broader stillness without effort here. There are movements so wide and patient that direction slowly loses importance. Instead of paths or destinations, motion becomes a gentle drifting, shaped by influence rather than intention. Nothing here is trying to arrive. Change unfolds as a quiet response, curving softly wherever balance allows, never rushing, never insisting on a future moment. Across vast spans, this drifting feels calm because effort has no role. Motion continues without needing guidance, carried by subtle pulls that spread evenly through space. Even when movement is constant, it feels restful, as if activity itself has learned how to soften. There is no sense of progress or delay, only a steady allowance that holds everything together. For the listening mind, this absence of direction can feel like relief. There is nothing to track, nothing to anticipate. Awareness does not need to follow a route or measure distance. It can simply float alongside the motion, trusting that balance is being maintained quietly, without correction or urgency. Time behaves differently within this drifting. Moments widen, and their edges blur into one another. Instead of advancing step by step, time seems to open outward, offering space rather than sequence. The feeling of being carried replaces the need to move. Calm deepens because nothing asks to be completed. What is most soothing is how little is required. These motions persist whether they are noticed or not. They do not depend on observation, effort, or intention. Influence replaces instruction, and stability emerges naturally from shared movement. Drift becomes a place of rest, rather than uncertainty. As attention lingers within this wide motion, scale begins to soften perception. Distance feels less intimidating when nothing is rushing across it. Vastness becomes gentle, almost familiar, because it moves slowly enough to feel safe. The mind can rest inside this spaciousness without needing to define it. Gradually, awareness begins to turn inward again, not abruptly, but through quiet curiosity. If such calm drifting exists across wide spaces, then even gentler exchanges must be unfolding closer at hand. Movements too small to be seen, influences too subtle to notice directly, continuing their work without announcement. This thought does not demand focus. It simply narrows attention softly, guiding perception toward what moves invisibly nearby. Drift does not end here. It becomes quieter, closer, and more delicate. Motion continues, calm and unmeasured, inviting awareness to follow gently inward toward subtle exchanges that support balance without sound, without urgency, and without effort. These gentle movements do not ask to be understood. They remain steady companions, present even as attention softens and thoughts grow sparse. Nothing accelerates. Nothing concludes. Influence continues to flow quietly, shaping balance in ways too small to notice yet strong enough to sustain calm. As focus settles closer to these unseen motions, the vast drifting of earlier moments fades into intimacy. What once felt distant now feels near, preparing awareness to rest within subtle exchanges where stillness and motion blend softly. And calm is carried forward without effort, expectation, or return, into sleep gently. Much of what keeps systems calm happens without being seen. Quiet transfers move continuously through space, redistributing warmth, pressure, and balance so gently that they rarely draw attention. These exchanges are not dramatic corrections. They are soft adjustments, smoothing differences until sharp contrasts slowly dissolve. Nothing is forced back into place. Instead, imbalance is allowed to thin and spread, becoming easier to carry. Calm does not require everything to stop. Even in rest, these unseen movements continue, ensuring that stillness is never rigid or strained. Energy drifts from where it gathers too tightly toward places that can receive it. Density eases. Tension softens. The process feels less like fixing and more like allowing things to settle naturally. There is reassurance in how little effort this requires. These exchanges do not depend on awareness or intention. They continue whether or not they are noticed, maintaining balance quietly in the background. For the listening mind, this can feel comforting. Rest does not mean shutting everything down. It means letting pressure spread gently until nothing feels urgent. The transitions created by these exchanges are smooth and gradual. Warm blends into cool. Fullness fades into openness. Boundaries soften until it becomes difficult to say exactly where one state ends and another begins. This blending invites awareness to relax, releasing the need to define or separate. Time within these processes feels steady and present. Nothing is waiting to become something else. Each moment is complete as it is, supported by the quiet movement flowing through it. Calm deepens because there is no anticipation, no requirement to change what already feels balanced. As attention lingers, the unseen begins to feel familiar rather than mysterious. What cannot be directly observed becomes trustworthy through consistency. The mind does not need images or explanations to sense the effect. It is enough to feel that balance is being maintained gently, reliably, without interruption. Gradually, awareness shifts from the exchanges themselves to the faint impressions they leave behind. Subtle patterns emerge, not through action, but through repetition. The mind begins to recognize traces rather than movements, sensing continuity without needing to follow each transfer. In this gentle transition, focus moves from what moves invisibly to what can be known indirectly. The unseen softens into suggestion, and suggestion into quiet understanding. Nothing demands certainty. Awareness drifts easily, prepared to rest within impressions that accumulate slowly, carrying calm forward as motion itself becomes too gentle to notice. Understanding does not always come from closeness. Often it forms quietly, at a distance, through traces that return again and again without explanation. These faint signals arrive softened by time, carrying no demand to be fully grasped. They simply repeat, and in their repetition, they become familiar. Knowing begins not as certainty, but as a gentle recognition that something steady is continuing. There is comfort in this indirect awareness. Nothing here insists on clarity. The mind is allowed to remain open, resting in impressions rather than conclusions. When signals return softly, spaced by calm intervals, they create reliability without pressure. Familiarity grows not because everything is understood, but because nothing feels unpredictable. These traces rarely appear alone. They arrive in quiet cycles, similar but never identical, each one leaving a subtle echo. Over time, the echoes overlap, forming a background sense of presence. Awareness learns slowly, the way one learns a rhythm without counting beats. Knowledge settles without effort, becoming part of the atmosphere rather than an object of focus. For someone listening in the still hours, this can feel deeply reassuring. It suggests that uncertainty is not a problem to solve. Calm does not require complete information. It grows from continuity, from the sense that gentle impressions will return as expected. The mind can loosen its grip, trusting repetition to hold things together. Time plays an important role here. The spaces between impressions matter as much as the impressions themselves. Each pause allows what was sensed to soften before the next arrival. This spacing prevents urgency and invites patience. Awareness drifts, supported by the slow rhythm of return. As cycles extend, understanding deepens, almost without notice. What once felt distant becomes quietly familiar through presence across time. There is no need to reach outward. The mind can remain still, letting traces accumulate naturally. Gradually, these small repetitions stretch into long durations. They shape awareness gently, not through force, but through persistence. Knowing remains incomplete, yet sufficient. It carries calm forward into wider spans of time, where understanding rests easily, and awareness drifts onward without needing certainty, effort, or wakefulness. In this gentle way, knowing feels more like resting than learning. It does not accumulate facts, only familiarity. Awareness is free to soften, allowing impressions to pass without holding them. Nothing is demanded from attention. The quiet repetition continues, patient and reliable, shaping calm across extended time. As this steadiness remains, the mind drifts comfortably forward, supported by traces that never insist, never hurry, and never require waking. Sleep arrives gently, unannounced, and welcome, without effort or expectation at all. Life does not need to be invited in order to appear. It settles quietly where conditions are calm enough to allow it, emerging not through intention, but through balance. In long stretches of early time, simple surroundings offered steady spaces where interactions could continue without disruption. Nothing was trying to create complexity. Stability itself was enough. When change slowed and conditions remained kind, small arrangements were allowed to linger. These early forms did not strive or compete. They simply persisted because they fit gently within what surrounded them. Warmth, chemistry, and time worked together without direction, repeating interactions that did not fall apart. What remained did so quietly, supported by consistency rather than effort. Over vast evolutionary spans, these quiet survivals accumulated, not as a plan, but as a natural consequence of balance holding steady. There is deep reassurance in this way of understanding life. It suggests that growth does not require urgency. Meaningful complexity can arise while nothing seems to be happening. Change unfolds patiently, beneath notice, guided by conditions that remain welcoming rather than demanding. Life appears here not as an event, but as a condition that settles in when space allows. This perspective softens expectations. Nothing meaningful needs to arrive dramatically in order to matter. Biological change stretches across durations so long that individual moments blur together. Generations blend seamlessly, each one resting lightly on the next. Motion continues, yet from a distance it feels almost still, like a slow breath that never draws attention to itself. Time plays a gentle role in this process. It smooths transitions until beginnings and endings lose their sharpness. What remains is continuity, a quiet persistence supported by balance. Life does not rush forward here. It unfolds at a pace slow enough to feel safe, sustained by stability rather than pressure. For the listening mind, this idea can feel comforting. It removes the need to hurry growth, understanding, or change. Just as life settles in when conditions are steady, thoughts can soften and rest when given space. Nothing needs to be forced into place. Calm becomes enough. As biological motion continues, it gradually fades into the background of time. Change becomes so gentle that it feels like stillness. The energy that once shaped growth spreads thin, dissolving urgency. What remains is a deep quiet, where persistence does not announce itself. This slowing invites awareness to rest even more deeply. Life's activity eases into a broader calm, carried forward by balance that no longer needs motion to be felt. In this deep stillness, nothing asks to happen next. Continuity remains, steady and patient, allowing rest to deepen naturally. Growth pauses, time stretches, and awareness drifts softly into a quiet where balance holds everything gently, without effort, intention, or wakefulness. There are moments in long stretches of time when change becomes so slow it nearly disappears. From the surface, everything appears settled, familiar, unchanged. Shapes hold their place. Patterns seem fixed. Yet beneath this quiet exterior, subtle forces continue their patient work, supporting balance without calling attention to themselves. Stillness here is not an absence, but a gentle endurance. Over extended durations, systems learn how to carry themselves. Pressure spreads evenly. Weight is shared. Influence moves so gradually that no single shift can be felt. Nothing resists motion, yet nothing rushes to respond. Change does not stop. It simply moves at a pace that feels almost restful. Stability arises not through rigidity, but through the ability to absorb time. This kind of persistence can feel deeply calming. It suggests that balance does not need constant effort to survive. Even when nothing seems to be happening, support continues quietly. Forces remain present, holding things gently in place, ensuring continuity without interruption. Endurance becomes a background condition rather than an achievement. For the listening mind, this perspective offers permission to slow completely. Thoughts do not need to progress. Feelings do not need resolution. Awareness can remain where it is, supported by patience rather than motion. Rest is not something that must be earned. It already exists within this steady persistence. Time feels wide here. Moments stretch and soften, losing their edges. The sense of urgency dissolves, replaced by an ease that feels natural rather than imposed. Change happens only when it must, and even then, it happens quietly. This allows reflection to deepen without effort, turning gently into acceptance. What is most reassuring is how little is required to maintain this calm. Systems endure because they have learned how to distribute influence gently across long spans. Stress does not collect in one place. It thins and fades, leaving nothing strain. Balance holds itself together without supervision. As awareness rests within this near stillness, even the idea of structure begins to soften. Boundaries lose importance. Forms feel less solid, more like tendencies and fixed shapes. Support remains, but it no longer needs clear outlines to be felt. Stability becomes something sensed rather than seen. Gradually, attention begins to loosen its hold on form altogether. Structure fades into suggestion. What remains is continuity without shape, endurance without edges. The mind does not need to define or measure it. It can simply rest within the quiet persistence that carries everything forward. In this gentle release, change nearly stops, and calm finds room to deepen. Awareness drifts away from structure and toward abstraction, carried by patience that does not end, preparing softly for a space where balance exists without form, without effort, and without interruption, holding rest quietly and completely. Order does not always have edges. Sometimes it exists as a quiet tendency, a soft agreement between countless motions that no longer need to separate themselves. At this level, boundaries loosen and distinctions fade without effort. Nothing concludes here. Processes continue by blending gently into one another, carrying balance forward without asking to be named. In this openness, movement feels almost like stillness. Change persists, yet it is so evenly shared that it leaves no sharp trace. There is no form to protect, no structure to maintain. Continuity alone is enough. The idea of order shifts from something arranged into something allowed, present everywhere without needing definition. This perspective offers a sense of completion without closure. Nothing arrives, and nothing departs. What exists remains because it can, not because it must. The mind is released from the need to separate one moment from the next. Awareness can rest inside the blending, where effort has no role and expectation gently dissolves. Time here feels wide and forgiving. It does not move toward an outcome. It simply stretches, allowing processes to remain in quiet balance across spans that feel endless, yet light. There is no urgency, no signal that something should change. The absence of edges becomes reassuring, a sign that nothing is missing. For the listener, this is an invitation to let go completely. There is nothing left to follow or understand. Calm does not deepen because something new appears, but because nothing interrupts it. Attention can float freely, supported by continuity that asks for no participation. Order in this space is not something to hold. It surrounds softly, inclusive, and patient. It remains even as focus loosens, even as awareness drifts. There is no return required, no moment to come back to. Everything continues quietly, without demand. As the narration settles, openness remains. Balance does not resolve into an ending. It extends gently, carrying rest forward without boundary. Sleep does not need to arrive here. It is already allowed. Thought loosens, breath slows, and awareness rests wherever it falls. There is nothing waiting beyond this openness. Quiet continues, steady and kind, holding without shape or expectation. The night does not ask for attention. It simply offers space. In that space, rest deepens naturally, uninterrupted, unmeasured, and complete. Nothing needs to be done, decided, remembered, or returned to, as calm continues holding awareness gently through the night. Quiet, open, safe, whole.